2 here, guys. With over 1.6 million buys, Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr. is now the best-selling pay-per-view of 2020, knocking off even the UFC from the top spot. And this was just an exhibition fight. Max, tell me this. Do you want to see Tyson fight again?
I do. Listen, the first to tell you, and he does. But, Mike Tyson, what he means to a generation of boxing fans is something special. And I also just personally have had certain experiences with Mike where I got a lot of love for him, and boxing fans and a generation really loves him in a way. I love the fact that he got out of there. No one really got hurt. It still kind of looked like Mike Tyson, right? And the fact that he was matched against an old guy who's also not a big heavyweight, right, in Roy Jones, I thought was the right idea. I'd love to see him in there again. I know it's dangerous, even in an exhibition. I can't deny I'd love to see it. Stephen A., as long as they don't put him in with Holyfield. I do not want to see, don't put Mike in with Evander. I've seen that enough. But I'd love to see him matched against the right opponent. I can't deny I would pay for it again.
I don't want to see it. I would tell you that I certainly don't want to see him against Holyfield, but I got to tell you something right now. I think it's more psychological with Holyfield than anything else, because I think that Holyfield obviously was never fearful of Mike Tyson and went in the ring and showed why. I love Mike Tyson. I love what he's done for the game of boxing, and we were actually wrong. The number wasn't 1.4 million pay-per-view buys, Max Kellerman. It was 1.6 million. So, at age 54, it's phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal what we saw from Mike Tyson. But I prefer to see the Mike Tyson and remember him for what he was. Remember how menacing he was, how sensational he was, how fast he was, those body shots, the power in both hands. I just want to remember the best of Mike Tyson. Listen, we all get to a point where, Father Time comes knocking at our door. And we just ain't what we used to be anymore. And even though at 54, he is better than most of the planet, considering how he got himself in shape to the fighting weight the guy was damn near the weight that he was when he was fighting in his heyday, for crying out loud. Major, major props to him. All I'm saying is that, still when he got in the ring, he was 54 years old. And so for me, I just don't prefer to see that. If he needs the money, then more power to him. I'll support him because I love the guy. And he got in shape and didn't cheat us. But I just say to you that I prefer to see Mike Tyson from his heyday.
Well, Mike is raising money for charity.
I agree. I got it. I understand that. I just prefer to see Mike Tyson from his younger days as opposed to in his 50s. That's all. Nothing negative.
Listen.
It's my preference.
I don't want to see Mike again, but if he do it, I'm paying for it.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I think for me, it's just one. It's a level of respect. The fact that Mike Tyson is actually going back into the boxing ring. Hey, I got to be honest with both of y'all, my brothers on here. I was excited as hell when Mike Tyson decided he was gonna go do an exhibition match, but I also was scared. I also was a little bit worried about what could transpire if somebody got caught the wrong way, especially with Roy Jones Jr. And I'm looking at Evander Holyfield at 58 and Mike Tyson at 54. And I believe Mike is just built differently than everybody else. Even from a psychological standpoint, if you listen to Mike leading up to that fight, this fight for Mike was about proving to himself that he could train and do it again. And Mike Tyson, to me, listen, I remember hearing this slogan, and I'll never forget it for the rest of my life, guys. When Mike was young, I heard somebody say, it's like a pit bull that's off the leash. And I do not think that Mike Tyson at times in that ring against Roy Jones Jr., I thought he kind of went back to Mike Tyson and if he would have caught Roy Jones Jr. with one of them throws, it would have been good night, Irene. And then we'll all be sitting here talking about, I ain't paying for another damn thing to see a man get down there killed in the ring.
Stephen A.
You remember when he said, "Hold"?
This is why.
He was dancing, and then I said, "You know what? I'm gonna get him. I'm gonna get him."
Stephen A., this is why you said you don't want to remember him as a 54-year-old. You said you didn't want to remember his 54-year-old. If you squint, it kind of still looked like Mike. That's why I want to see it again.
Nothing but respect.
He kind of still fought like Mike.
Max, he had the little hip throw when he turned on Roy Jones. I thought it was over.
Kind of inspiring.
Good to get him.
And he's heading back to the ring. Say what? on February 20th for an exhibition match against YouTube personality Logan Paul. Now, Logan is the brother of Jake Paul, who most recently knocked out former NBA player Nate Robinson on the undercard of the Mike Tyson Roy Jones Jr. exhibition. Oh, Max. What is going on?
Well, Floyd Mayweather figured out a long time ago that the best thing a fighter can do for himself is flip the paradigm. What do I mean by that? For years, for really the history of boxing, the basic paradigm is this: fans and networks exploit fighters. Right? We want to see them in great fights. What does that mean? It means we want to see them tested. What does that mean? It means we want to see them hit and hurt. And how do they respond? And can they dig deep and overcome and make great action fights, right? That's what we want to see. Floyd was like, well, actually, from the fighter's point of view, my best interest is take minimal risk, maximum reward, not get hit, get out with all my money and all my marbles, right? Like, that's in the fighter's best interest. Fighters and fans' interest diametrically opposed. And so what Floyd figured out after a while, for example, with Pacquiao, Stephen A., is I don't have to fight this dude at the height of his powers. I can wait. Okay, I'll fight him now. Now there's pent-up demand. I'm going to make 5 times more than I would have made back then to fight a guy who's not as dangerous as he was back then. That's smart. And then what he realized is, wait a minute, because Conor McGregor's rise, I don't even have to fight fighters, boxers. I can fight dudes who don't box and make $100 million. Now, what fool wouldn't do that if he could? Why fight a guy who's trained his whole life to box you for $30 million when you can fight a guy who hasn't trained his whole life boxing for $100 million? Well, of course, Floyd's right about that, so that's what he did. And since then, he's realized, Stephen A., he never has to get in the ring with a dude who's trained his whole life to box and he can make money, whether it's a Japanese kickboxer, right, who's smaller than him, whether it's Logan Paul, who's a YouTube star who's twice his size, it doesn't matter. If you haven't trained in boxing your whole life, it's easy work for Floyd at any age, and he's going to make tens and tens of millions of dollars to do it.
Max Kellerman, here's where I disagree with you. I think he'd make that money if it was Jake Paul, because Jake Paul is the new sensation because of what he did to Nate Robinson. So again, we're not talking about anybody. Much respect to the Pauls, because obviously they take this seriously. They're trying to do their old thing, but major props and nothing but respect to the both of them. But in terms of Jake Paul, because of what he did to Nate Robinson, the bottom line is he is the guy that is more popular right now, from my understanding. I could be wrong. I apologize if I am. But from my understanding, I think he's the guy that is more popular because of what he did to Nate, who Floyd knows, because Floyd knows a lot of these NBA players. A lot of these NBA players talk to Floyd. So seeing what happened to Nate Robinson was not a good thing, and Floyd was very encouraging on social media to Nate Robinson, giving him a lot of props for being brave enough to step in that squared circle, and I appreciate that from Floyd. But I'm just saying, when I think about Floyd, first of all, it's the wrong Paul. If he's going to fight either one of them, it's the wrong Paul that he's fighting, because Jake is the rage right now, as opposed to Logan, from my understanding. And then outside of that, me personally, if it's an exhibition, I would prefer to see them I'd rather see Floyd against Oscar De La Hoya. I'd rather see Floyd in a rematch against Conor McGregor. I'd rather see something like that rather than him fight a guy that just learning how to, and I'm not saying learn how, but please, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I'm in no way am I trying to be disrespectful to the Pauls, but I'm just saying in terms of their official boxing experience.
For guys who just started.
They're just starting. I'm like, no, if you Floyd, do an exhibition against someone. Like, I didn't like how Roy looked, okay? But Roy is a former world champion who had over 50 fights on his resume that decided to get into the ring with Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson didn't get into the ring with somebody that had one professional fight. And I don't understand that with Floyd. I don't understand that to me.
Logan Paul actually has more Twitter and Instagram followers than Jake Paul. They both have in the millions.
No, I'm just talking about right now, Matt.
Even bigger on social media.
Yeah, I'm just talking about because of Nate Robinson.
Sure, but maybe Floyd's looking at Jake like, maybe Floyd's looking at them like, Jake is going to be a little harder. Logan will be like, who knows? The point is, he is going to go make a big event and make many millions of dollars for boxing a guy who hasn't been boxing his whole life. He's figured that out. He could do that till he's 75 and make money every time. By the way, Mike and Roy just moved 1.4 million pay-per-views.
1.4 million.
That's more than like Triple G and Canelo. Fame
Tyson.
fell.
We're going to talk about that. Yeah.